Everyone has a dream. Everyone has something inside them that whispers there's more life, more impact, more potential. You felt it, that fire in your gut, that image in your mind of who you could become if everything lined up, if the opportunity came, if the timing was right, if the fear faded, if just for once your habits matched your ambition. That dream is not random. That vision of the life you want is not fiction. It's a preview, a glimpse of what's possible if you're willing to do what most people won't. But here's the truth. Most people don't want to hear. Dreams don't come true on their own. You don't get what you wish for. You get what you're willing to suffer for. And the only bridge between who you are and who you want to be is discipline. That's the difference between those who dream and those who live their dreams. It's not talent. It's not luck. It's not some secret skill passed down to the chosen few. It's discipline. The boring, brutal, non-negotiable practice of showing up when you don't feel like it, pushing forward when the motivation disappears, doing the hard thing again and again with no applause, no recognition, and no guarantee, except the quiet voice inside that says, keep going. Discipline is the currency of every transformation. You want a strong body? Discipline. You want a sharp mind? Discipline. You want financial freedom? Discipline. You want peace of mind, powerful relationships, unstoppable confidence? All of it, discipline. It's not about one big decision, it's about 1,000 small ones. Waking up early when your body says sleep, saying no when your emotions scream yes, choosing structure when your comfort begs for chaos. Discipline isn't the enemy of freedom, it's the only path to it. The reason most people stay stuck isn't because they're broken. It's not because they're lazy. It's not even because they don't care. It's because they keep relying on motivation, and motivation is a liar. Motivation will pump you up on Monday and abandon you by Wednesday. Motivation gets you excited, but excitement fades. Emotion fades. Life hits and suddenly you're back to old patterns. That's why discipline matters more than hype, more than emotion, more than wanting it badly. Wanting is easy. Everyone wants. The real question is, what are you willing to work through? Discipline is not about punishment. It's not about perfection. It's about alignment. Alignment with the future you keep saying you want. Every time you make a disciplined choice, you cast a vote for that future. You send a message to yourself. I am becoming the kind of person who doesn't quit, who doesn't negotiate with excuses, who doesn't need perfect conditions to move forward. That's where confidence comes from, not from external praise, but from internal proof. And make no mistake, the gap between your current life and your dream life is filled with uncomfortable moments. Moments of doubt, moments of fatigue, moments where everything in you will scream for the easier way out. But here's the thing, they're just moments, and moments can be mastered. Discipline isn't about never feeling weak, it's about refusing to let those feelings control your behavior. It's about choosing your values over your impulses, choosing the long game over the shortcut, choosing progress over pleasure. That's the war you face every day, between comfort and growth, between now and later, between the person you've been and the person you know you could be. And that war is won, not in grand gestures but in the quiet moments where no one's watching and no one will know whether you rise or retreat. That's the real battlefield. That's where transformation happens. So if you've been dreaming big but moving small, if you've been waiting for the right time or the perfect mood or the clear path, understand this, that day may never come. But you don't need perfect conditions to get started. You need discipline. You need the grit to show up today. Not because it's easy, but because it matters. Because your future is waiting for you on the other side of consistency. Because no one's coming to build your dream for you. It's on you. And that's not a burden, that's a gift. You don't have to wait for someone to choose you. You don't have to wait for approval. You don't have to wait for luck. You just have to decide that your dream is worth the cost. That the pain of discipline is less than the pain of regret. That the life you want is worth fighting for, even when no one's cheering. Because if you're willing to suffer a little today, to sacrifice a little comfort, to silence the noise and do the work, then you can build a reality far greater than the one you're living now. A reality where your dream isn't just a fantasy, it's your everyday life. Anyone can dream. It costs nothing. You can sit in your room, close your eyes and build an entire future in your mind. You can imagine the perfect body, the financial freedom, the booming business, the world-class career, the stage, the recognition, the respect. You can visualize the life that makes your heart race and your soul come alive. But that vision, no matter how vivid, doesn't cost you a thing. You don't lose sleep over a dream. You don't sweat for a fantasy. You don't bleed for something that only lives in your imagination. And that's exactly why most people stay right where they are. because dreaming feels productive. It feels like movement. It gives the illusion of progress without demanding any sacrifice. But dreams without discipline are just decorations in your mind. You don't earn success because you dream bigger than others. You earn it because you were willing to suffer more for what you wanted. You were willing to make decisions that most people avoid. You were willing to put your time, energy, comfort, and peace on the line. And that willingness didn't come from excitement. It came from discipline. Because discipline is what separates the dreamers from the doers. It's the price you pay when no one's watching, when the cameras are off, when the lights are down, when it's not fun anymore, and the motivation has long since disappeared. That's where success is paid for, in silence, through repetition, through the days when you feel like quitting, but choose to show up anyway. Discipline is expensive. It costs you sleep. It costs you comfort. It costs you social approval. It costs you temporary happiness. It forces you to delay gratification while everyone else is indulging. It makes you uncomfortable, exhausted, and often misunderstood. But everything you want, everything you've ever imagined when you close your eyes and picture a better version of yourself, is sitting on the other side of that cost. You cannot bypass it. You cannot trick the process. You cannot fake consistency. The scoreboard of life doesn't care about your potential. It only reflects your discipline. And if you want the results no one else has, you must be willing to do what no one else will, and do it for longer than they thought was necessary. Most people don't fail because their dreams weren't big enough. They fail because their discipline was too weak. They got inspired and made a plan, but the moment things got inconvenient, they fell off. They quit the gym after 2 weeks. They gave up on the business after 3 months. They let their emotions hijack their routines. And instead of staying in the fire and trusting the process, they retreated to comfort and called it balance. But balance doesn't build empires. Balance doesn't build empires. Balance doesn't write books, win championships, or build legacies. That's built by people who show up anyway, who do the work in silence, and trust that eventually, the results will speak louder than the excuses they refuse to make. Dreams are easy to talk about. Discipline is harder to live. That's why social media is full of big goals and very few outcomes. Everyone says they're grinding, building, manifesting, but very few are doing the boring, brutal, thankless work that actually moves the needle. Waking up at 5 a.m. when it's dark and your body aches. Practicing your craft when no one believes in you. Saying no to temporary pleasure because you know it's not aligned with where you're going. That's what it looks like to pay for your dream. That's the cost that most aren't willing to accept. Discipline isn't a one-time decision. It's not a motivation burst or a 30-day challenge. It's a lifestyle. It's a mindset. It's a contract you sign with yourself that says, no matter how I feel, I will act in alignment with my future. That's it. No conditions, no mood checks, no negotiations. Because if your dreams only matter when you feel good, they'll never survive the real pressure of life. Discipline keeps moving when emotions scream stop. It keeps pushing when the results are slow. It keeps showing up when no one claps, when the progress is invisible, when your own doubt is louder than your belief. And the truth is, most people won't do it. Most people will keep waiting for a better time, a new plan, or someone to come push them. They'll keep dreaming in circles while their discipline rots. They'll keep confusing motion with progress, hype with hunger, intention with execution. But discipline doesn't care about your intention. It only honors action. And every single day you're either building your dream through disciplined choices, or you're building your regret through convenient ones. You either pay now, with sweat, patience, and sacrifice, or you pay later, with disappointment, resentment, and a life you know you could have had, but didn't fight for when it counted most. Motivation feels powerful. It lights you up. It's the moment you hear a speech, watch a video, or read something that hits you right in the chest, and you feel like nothing can stop you. For a brief window, you're invincible. You start dreaming bigger, speaking bolder, planning harder. You tell yourself, this time will be different. You feel it in your bones. The fire is real, and for a few hours, maybe a few days, you take action. You wake up earlier, you push harder, you make bold decisions, but then, it fades. Motivation always fades. That's its flaw. It's emotional, not structural. It's a spark, not a system. It gets the engine going, but it doesn't keep the wheels turning when the road gets rough. The moment life interrupts your rhythm, the moment something doesn't go your way, when results don't show up fast enough, when you're tired, stressed, or discouraged, motivation disappears. And now you're left with the real test. Will you keep moving when the feeling is gone? That's where discipline takes over. Discipline doesn't rely on emotion. It doesn't wait for the right mood. It doesn't ask how you feel about your goals. It simply moves. It's the system that carries you through the days when your passion is missing, your energy is low, and the grind feels empty. It's the habit of honoring your commitments long after the mood in which you made them has died. It doesn't give you butterflies or goosebumps. It doesn't make your heart race. It makes your legs move, your hands work, your mouth speak. It makes you do what needs to be done, especially when you don't want to. That's the difference between those who start strong and those who finish strong. Anyone can be excited at the beginning. Anyone can post about the hustle when they feel inspired, but only a few will keep going when inspiration becomes inconvenience. The gym at 5 a.m., the lonely hours, learning your craft, the rejections, the silence, the repetition, the discipline to keep doing the reps when no one is clapping, when no one sees the effort, when no one validates your grind. That's the separator. That's where growth lives. Motivation will tell you what's possible. Discipline will show you what's real, because every goal you've ever set was born in a motivated moment, but every goal you've ever achieved was delivered by disciplined action. The athlete doesn't win because of one inspired workout. The author doesn't publish because of one burst of writing. The leader doesn't rise because of one speech. It's what they do when the emotion dies. It's what they build into their identity, their habits, their lifestyle. Discipline is boring. It's repetitive. It's not flashy, but it works. It's brushing your teeth. It's taking the stairs. It's writing the page, doing the reps, turning off the noise, staying the course. It's what most people abandon when they say, "I just don't feel it anymore." It's what champions lean on when feelings get in the way, because they don't let feelings decide their future. They let standards decide. You can have the best intentions in the world, the most beautiful vision board, the perfect strategy, but without discipline, all of that is just noise. And discipline doesn't care how excited you were on day 1. It only cares about what you did on day 30, day 60, day 100, when you were sick, tired, uninspired, and no one believed in you. That's the test. That's where most people quit. Not because they didn't want it, but because they didn't want it. But because they didn't train themselves to keep going when wanting it wasn't enough. Motivation is a moment. Discipline is a muscle. You build it by doing the work regardless of your mood. You build it by creating systems that remove the option to quit. You build it by designing your day around action, not inspiration. Because if you only work when you feel like it, your results will always be controlled by your emotions. But when you build discipline, your progress becomes inevitable, because you're no longer negotiating with your goals, you're executing on them. That's the power of discipline. It's not loud, but it's lethal. It doesn't hype you up, it holds you up. It's the difference between wishing for change and becoming unshakable. It's what carries the mission forward, long after the emotion disappears. It's what turns potential into power, and dreams into reality. Goals are exciting. They give you direction, something to aim for. They look great on vision boards, and sound powerful when you talk about them out loud. I want to build a business. I want to be financially free. I want to write a book. I want to be fit, confident, successful. These statements feel good. They feel like movement. They make you believe change is already happening. But goals alone don't change your life. They don't build your future, because the future isn't built in big declarations. It's built in the small, silent, repeated actions that no one sees. It's built by your routines. What you do every single day is the true reflection of what you will become. Your routines are the architecture of your life. They're the invisible systems that shape your outcomes, not your motivation, not your inspiration, not your vision, but your systems, your habits, the structure of how you live when no one's watching. That's what determines where you end up. And that's why so many people fail to reach their goals, because they write the vision but never build the routine that will carry them to it. You don't become healthy because you said you wanted to lose 30 pounds. You become healthy because you decided that every morning you will move your body, you will drink water, you will eat clean, you will sleep well, and you'll do it whether it feels good or not. You don't become successful in business because you set a financial goal. You become successful because you built the daily discipline to learn, adapt, make calls, manage time, master focus, and execute. You don't become a great speaker, leader, or creator by talking about impact. You become it by practicing your craft over and over until it becomes who you are. Goals are not outcomes. They are destinations. They don't get you there. They just point to where you're going. But your routines, those are the footsteps, the daily grind, the boring, often thankless actions that seem small in the moment, but are monumental in the long run. The alarm clock you don't snooze, the journal you write in, the book you read, the 30 minutes of focused work you do when others are scrolling. That's where your future lies. In the spaces no one celebrates but that quietly stack up and form the foundation of everything. That's why discipline matters so much, because routines only stick when they're backed by commitment, not convenience. When you don't feel like it, but you do it anyway. When the progress is slow, but you trust the process. When the reward isn't immediate, but the identity you're building is. People think success is about intensity, but long-term success is about consistency. Anyone can sprint for a few weeks, but can you walk with discipline for years? Can you master the mundane? Can you repeat excellence when there's no spotlight and no applause? Most people set goals on emotion, but live their days by habit, and the two don't match. They want a new result, but they keep living inside the old routine. They want transformation, but they haven't changed the inputs. They hope for breakthrough, but they still wake up late. Hit snooze, avoid the hard tasks, and seek distraction. That's the truth no one wants to face. Your routine is your future in disguise. Show me how you live your day, and I'll show you exactly where you're headed. Not by your intention, but by your repetition. The most powerful lives aren't created by massive breakthroughs. They're created by people who realized that greatness is hidden in the boring. They build their routines like systems. They schedule their progress. They don't hope to feel productive. They build life that force it, and they don't allow their feelings to dictate their follow-through. They've built discipline into their environment. They don't rely on memory. They rely on structures, and that structure becomes a shield, a path, a machine that keeps moving forward, even on the days their mind tries to convince them to stop. You will never rise above your routine. You can dream bigger, plan harder, visualize longer, but if your routine doesn't match your dream will run. It will fade, not because it wasn't possible, but because your behavior didn't match its requirements. Goals give you hope, but routines give you results. They are the truth about what you actually believe, what you actually value, what you actually live. Every action, every pattern, every repeated choice, it's either building the life you want or reinforcing the one you're trying to escape. Discipline isn't just about doing hard things. It's not just about pushing through the workouts, avoiding the distraction, or waking up earlier than you want to. At its core, discipline is about integrity. It's about the silent agreement you make with the version of yourself you've always wanted to become. It's a promise. No to the world, no to your family, no even to your goals, but to your future self. That version of you that's stronger, more focused, more fulfilled. The version that finally walks into the light. That version is watching every decision you make right now, and every time you choose discipline, you send that version of yourself a message.
I haven't forgotten you.
There's something sacred about that, something powerful in knowing that when you push yourself to stay consistent, even when it's hard, you're not just being productive, you're building a bridge to the light that's waiting on the other side of your excuses. Every small act of discipline is a brick in that bridge, and with every brick, your future gets closer, your potential becomes more real. You begin to shift, not just in habit, but in identity, because that's what discipline really transforms, not just your results, but your sense of who you are. Most people never become who they're meant to be, not because they lack talent or resources, but because they keep breaking promises to themselves. They say they'll start tomorrow. They say they'll get serious next month. They say they're trying, but every excuse they make now is a debt their future self has to pay. And one day that future version will wake up to a reality shaped entirely by delay, avoidance, and regret. A life that could have been more, but wasn't, because the present self kept taking the easier way out. That's the danger of breaking the discipline. You're not just skipping a test. You're teaching yourself that your own word doesn't matter. You're slowly eroding the trust you have in yourself. And once that trust is gone, everything becomes harder. You set goals, but deep down, you don't believe you'll follow through. You make plans, but you already expect to abandon them. You start, but your finish line is far by the line you've already told yourself. That's why discipline matters so deeply. Not because the routine itself is magical, but because keeping your word to yourself is how confidence is born. When you become the kind of person who honors your own word every time, no matter how small, you become unstoppable. You stop needing external validation. You stop waiting for motivation. You stop fearing failure, because you know you've got you. You show up for yourself. You take care of the dream, even when no one's watching. That power becomes a kind of a force that protects you from the chaos of emotions, setbacks, and distress. Because while others are swayed by how they feel, you're anchored by what you've committed to. And here's what most people miss. You're not always going to feel like doing it. The discipline will never feel good at the start, but that doesn't matter. Because you're not acting for the present version of yourself. You're acting for the you're choosing for the man or woman you want to wake up as 6 months from now. That version of you isn't built through big moments. They're built through daily decisions, through saying no when it's easier to say yes, through rising when it's easier to rest, through pushing forward when staying still feels safer. You must understand that the future you want isn't just some abstract idea. It's a person, with needs, with responsibilities, with hopes, and that person is counting on you to stay locked in, counting on you to make the hard choices, counting on you to not waste time, to not waste purpose. The future version of you is waiting on the other side of your sacrifice, your discomfort, your discipline. And when you finally meet that version face to face, the only thing that will matter is the answer to one question. Did you keep your promise? Because that's what it all comes down to. Not how loud you talked, not how excited you were when you set the goal, not how passionate you were when you started. What matters is whether you kept going, whether you remained loyal to the vision when things got silent, whether you held the line when your emotions begged you to fold, whether you protected the dream, not just with hope, but with action, not just with words, but with work. That's the kind of discipline that changes everything, the kind that makes your future inevitable. This is where it all leads, right here, this moment of truth, where you decide whether the life you keep imagining will stay in your mind or move into your reality. Because discipline is not just a habit, it is the gatekeeper to everything you say you want. It is the difference between hoping for a life and building one, between living for comfort and rising for greatness, between the dreamer and the doer. The world doesn't need more people with good ideas. It doesn't need more passion without process. It needs more people who show up, more people who honor the grind, more people who don't just chase results, but commit to the path, even when it's hard, even when it's quiet, even when it's foreign. Because those are the people who actually change their lives, not overnight, not instantly, but relentlessly. You don't need to be the smartest. You don't need to be the most talented. You don't need a perfect background or all the answers. You just need to stop negotiating with your excuses. You need to get brutally honest about the gap between your vision and your daily actions. And then you need to do something about it. You need to build the routines, design the discipline, and walk the walk when it's freezing cold, when it's dark outside, when no one's clapping, when your legs shake and your doubt screams louder than your confidence. Because that's when greatness is made. It's not about how loud your goals are. It's about how consistently you move toward them. And every time you do, even if it's slow, even if it's messy, you prove to yourself that you are not who you used to be. You are becoming. And that process, that sacred work of showing up day after day, is what rewires your brain, reshapes your identity, and forges a future worth fighting for. One day the dream will be your reality. The discipline will have paid off. The sacrifices will have built your freedom. And when that day comes, when the results finally match the effort, no one will ever question how you got there. Because it'll be obvious. You didn't just dream it. You earned it. Through discipline, through fire, through the decision to become unstoppable, long before success ever showed up. So build that bridge. One action, one repetition, one decision at a time. Keep your head down, your standards high, and your promise unbroken. Because the future belongs to those who refuse to